Okay, it's 11:30. Welcome to the folks who've joined so far. We have a pretty long list of folks signed up today, so we're going to give a few more seconds to folks to jump on at 11:30. My name is Grant Keir. I'm the CEO of the Missoula Economic Partnership. We're really thrilled to have you all here today and honored to have our guest speakers providing information. So we'll get started here in just a moment. Okay, it looks like a few more folks have jumped on, and we want to be respectful of people's time today. We're trying to make this an easy webinar to participate at during work. We know at MEP that many of our businesses in the community are facing a challenge with workforce right now, both with recruitment and retention. There's nothing we'd love more than to not be needing to do this webinar today, but we know that the impacts of COVID have not yet become a sight in the rearview mirror, and we still have a lot of work to do as a community to recover from the impacts that we have felt over the last 2 years and the really tough impacts that many of us are feeling even right now this week. So what we've tried to do with today's webinar is really focus on those ARPA programs that are relevant to the greatest number of businesses in our community. By no means is this webinar intended to be an exhaustive explanation of what might be available for support. But I do want to note that towards the end of the program, we'll provide some resources and direction on where you can find additional information. Today is really focused on those recruitment and retention tools that are available through our partners at the state. So I want to add briefly that this will be recorded and it will be available on our website. So give us a day or so to get things edited and put up, but it should be available at missoulapartnership.com within a couple of days. Finally, I want to turn my attention to questions and answers. We know that there will be many questions. There's a lot of details in this. We'll move that to the end of the session. We'll provide an opportunity for both of our speakers to present. We will ask that you go ahead and if questions come to mind, go ahead and enter those in the Q&A portion at the bottom of your screen. Once you've asked those questions, our team will take a look at those and try to sort of prioritize those that we think are relevant to the largest group. We'll also provide just open question and answer towards the end as well. So with that in mind, I want to go ahead and welcome our speakers. We have two great resources here to present to us today. Anne-Marie Robinson from the Department of Commerce and Kellyanne Denninger with our Missoula Job Services. These are folks who have been working with MEP for a very long time. We'll invite Anne-Marie to present first. Anne-Marie is the section manager for the Office of Tourism and Business Development at Department of Commerce. She manages grant programs that help businesses with job training and job creation. Anne-Marie, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you for the opportunity. Let me just pull up my slide here. Great. So I'm going to talk about the funds that the Montana Department of Commerce receive through the American Rescue Plan Act, which is the ARPA program. There we go. So the purpose of the program is to provide reimburse businesses for costs associated with providing skill-based training for their new and existing full-time workers, and the purpose of the training should lead to an increase in capacity, production, and or revenue to the business. So who can apply? This can be for-profits and nonprofits businesses. They have to be physically located in Montana and their employees in Montana, and they must be registered and in good standings with the Montana Secretary of State. So what kind of training can they apply for? So really we're looking for those skill-based training for full-time employees. And that could be in-house, on-the-job training, and we'd reimburse the instructors' wages at the time of training. It could be some contracted services, miscellaneous direct training costs such as attending, travel-related expenses. and expenses incurred to participate in a national or accredited apprenticeship program, and then training and assessment. A lot of these will look very similar to the Department of Labor's incumbent worker program. And I'll kind of give a little bit of difference so that everybody can understand how our program for the ARPA WTG is a little bit different than the incumbent program, with the first one being the need for a full-time employee. How much can you apply for? The award is based on the number of full-time, new, and existing employees you're going to train. And again, that is different from the incumbent worker. They don't do any of the new training or new employees. And the ceiling is $3,000 per employee up to 70 employees, which would be a total of $210,000 that they can apply for. So the program requires is full-time employees. So full-time to us means need to work an average of 35 hours a week, and they do need to be an employee. So if you're a sole proprietor and you're not a W-2 employee or listed on the unemployment insurance report that you submit to the Department of Labor and Industry, we don't consider you an employee. This is where you could then apply to the incumbent worker program as a sole proprietor. We do have a wage requirement. It is 170% of Montana's minimum wage, which is $15.64 an hour at this time. And there is no wage requirement for the incumbent worker program. And then the match is dollar for dollar. The match can be the wages of the employee during the training. It could be for other training that you're providing that we're not reimbursing for. And it could also be for other capital expenditures. If the training is being reimbursed by another state or federal agency, of course, it would not be eligible for our program. So what is the process, or what's the application look like? Applications are submitted through the ARPA website. We do require that you provide your Secretary of State certification showing that you are registered and in good standing. We do ask for a 12-month profit and loss statement and a copy of your most current UI-5 unemployment insurance report and a training plan. And so what you're doing is you are applying for a year's worth of training. And that could be a multiple of different types of training. And so the training plan kind of outlines what kind of training you think you would need, or your employees, existing and potential new ones, would need to improve their skill in your business to help you grow and meet those performance metrics of increasing your revenue. And if you are hiring, we do ask for a hiring plan. We all know that everybody's crystal ball is a little murky today. But if you are, we just need to know what you're looking at for numbers and what type of positions that they are. This doesn't mean that if you say that you need a supervisor and in the end you needed a production worker, that we would not include it. We just need a sense of what you're looking for on those jobs and when you expect to hire them. So the award process is that you would submit the application again through the website. Commerce staff reviews those applications, and then it's presented to the advisory commission. And then after that, it goes to the governor for that final approval. So applications are taken on an open cycle, so you can apply at any time, but it does end up whenever that the commission is our trigger date. So we need enough time for us to review those applications in advance of that commission meeting. We had a meeting in December and we got 7 projects approved. And then January, there hasn't been any commission meetings. So we're hoping that there'll be an announcement here soon as to when the next commission meeting is. And we have several applications that will go before the commission at that time. So we'll talk about the post-award. So the award will be allocated between what you're proposing to train for your new employees and what you're proposing for your existing employees. And as you're drawing funds, they'll be drawn out of those 2 different categories. So if you received a $210,000 grant, it could not, and you said that it's going to be 30 existing and 40 net new, is if you're creating or just training your existing, the money allocated, or the 120,000 that was allocated towards your new employees would not be out, you could not use that for your existing. So you need to think about those new and existing jobs. And again, you have that 1 year that you can use to implement your training plan anytime. And then this is kind of an unusual one, is that we use that 3,000 to figure out what the award will be. But once the award is made, the business has the flexibility to allocate those training dollars based on what their actual needs are, recognizing that some employees is going to need maybe an additional training on the accounting system and QuickBooks, and then maybe somebody needs extensive training on a piece of equipment. And so we're allowing you to flex that money, so there's not a $3,000 cap on any employee, but there isn't a cap that no one job can receive more than 25% of the allocation. So we could not make an award and then one of the executive people use the full award to go get a master's degree or something. So that we do have that limits there. And then one of the unique things that are about this program that's very different is that we do have an incentive for new hires. There is going to be a $500 incentive for each net new position that is created that meets the ones that I'll talk about here soon. So that this would need to be a new employee to you guys, to the company, so that they cannot be an existing employee. And you have to show also that you had the growth in the company. So we're not just going to pay for replacement jobs. This is really on that growth for that new position. And that's a $500 on top of any training that would be paid out at the end of the grant period. And so the criteria is a qualified disabled person. This is not a self determination. They actually have to go to DPHHS and get a certificate. Disabled veteran, and a lot of those already have the paperwork for that verification. Native American, post-correctional facility release or pre-release center participant. And then if the job that is created, the new job, pays over $51,000 a year or $24.52 an hour. And so there's potential that if you have a disabled veteran who happens to be Native American and the job pays over $51,000, that there could be $150 or $1,500 bonus that would be paid out at the end of the contract. And here are our contacts and how to apply to our program. That's my presentation.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Just a reminder, folks, if you can put your questions in the Q&A area, we will ask Anne Marie to come back up later on if we have questions directed at her and her program. That's a wonderful program, Anne Marie, and it looks like it is going to be a big help to a lot of folks. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to transition over to Kellyanne Denninger. Again, Kellyanne is the manager of our local job service office here in Missoula. She's a key resource for workforce development programs through the Montana Department of Labor and Industry. Her team helps job seekers and employers access resources for recruitment and training of employees. Kellyanne, thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to hear about what's going on at Department of Labor and what's available to support our area businesses.
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, I just want to say that there is a lot of ARPA training monies available out there, and I am just going to focus on the ones that I am most familiar with that we are operating through job service here. It's really an exciting time because this is our opportunity to get some folks trained to meet the needs of the employers that we might not have ever had before. So we are very excited to operate these programs, and we hope to reach as many people as we possibly can. Each program that we operate, as I said, there's several different types of ARPA programs that are available, but each of the different ARPA programs has different eligibility requirements. And again, I will just focus on the ones that are available through our office. First of all, Job Service serves Missoula County, Ravalli County, Mineral County, and part of Granite County. So we do have a large area of the state that we serve. The purpose of and there's different purposes depending upon the type of ARPA program that there is. And the first two programs that I want to talk about are ARPA monies that we have received for our SNAP employment and training program and for our pathways training dollars. So what they do is they provide costs for training and related expenses for short-term around 12 weeks or less in targeted high demand industries. Now the 12 weeks or less, there's a little bit of fudge work with the 12 weeks. So if there's a training that's 16 weeks that is in high demand in an industry where employers really need folks, we could probably get that approved. So there is some wiggle room with some of these requirements and some of them there isn't. That is one that there's definitely some wiggle room. And I would dare say that in today's economy, and particularly around Missoula, with a 1.9 unemployment rate, that it would be able to make a case that almost any jobs that we have are high demand industries at this point in time. They can also pay for not just training, but for on-the-job training. So if somebody doesn't have any experience and meets the criteria and an employer is willing to hire them to train them, we can reimburse up to 100% of their training costs for up to 6 months. So that's a pretty significant amount of money that's there to help both the participant get a leg in with an employer and for the employer to kind of offset some of the training costs that they might have. Some of the criteria to be able to participate in these is families with minor children currently receiving SNAP, which is food stamp benefits, individuals that are receiving food stamp benefits, or people that pass the income guidelines, which is at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. They have to be able to provide proof of identity, proof of citizenship, and a residency requirement. One of the really nice things about these programs that we operate from here is that there are supportive services available for the participant. So for instance, if they decide that they want to train or attend a schooling that may be out of county, but would help them get a job in Missoula County, we could provide to help them with transportation to get there and back. We could pay for possibly for their food, possibly for their a place to stay while they're in the training. So that's really nice to have, to be able to assist folks to be able to access this training and access the training that is going to provide them the best opportunities. Some examples of training, and this is not at all an exhaustive list. There are tons of different training that people can attend. CDL comes to mind because there's such a shortage of CDL trainers. Certified nursing assistant, bookkeeping, welding, medical assistant, phlebotomy, EMT, code school. We can also assist with paid apprenticeships. So if somebody gets registered through the Montana Apprenticeship Program, we can actually.
Sorry to interrupt, but I don't know if you're intending for us to see your screen right now. You just made a reference to it, but I don't think you're sharing. So if you wanted to try to screen share that window, we could follow along if that's your hope. There should be a green box at the bottom of your window in Zoom that says share screen. And then you should be able to select a window with your presentation inside.
Can you see it now?
Yes, thank you very much.
I don't know what happened.
Sorry to interrupt, but that seems.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
There we go. that better?
That's great.
Okay, so if somebody is interested in an apprenticeship, these programs, if they qualify for them, can pay their wage while they're at completing the apprenticeship and any training costs that are associated with it. Again, this is not an exhaustive list at all. There are lots of different trainings that are available. One of the things that I would like to say for employers in particular, if you need a particular type of training, but number one, don't know where to get it for your folks, let us know. If we can't find it, if we don't know about any, then there's a possibility that we can get you in touch with folks that are going to be able to help you develop it. This would be particularly good if there's a certain industry that needs a certain type of training that there just isn't available in this area. With this ARPA money, there's definitely a possibility that we can help develop that training along with the needs, with input from the needs of the employer. One of the really cool things about the training is that participants can receive a $500 bonus, living stipend, they like to call it, for each month of training completed. So if there is a 4-week CDL training, they can get $500 once they complete those 4 weeks. If there's a 6-week training, they can get for each 4-week period, there's another $500. So if it's 6 weeks, they're going to get $1,000 up to 12 weeks of training. If the training goes beyond the 12 weeks, we can still only do up to $1,500. But it's incentive for people to be able to support themselves just even a little bit while they're in training. The other training program that I want to talk about is one that it's not connected to our Pathways or SNAP, but it's a rapid retraining program that's got a little bit different requirement. Again, it's to provide costs for training and related expenses for around 12 weeks or less, but it could be, again, a little bit more than 12 weeks to target high demand industries. This also allows for on-the-job training, not to exceed 6 months in length. Criteria to participate: they have to be an adult, 18 years or older. They have to be registered with a selective service if required. And they can have earned no more than $32,200 in the last calendar year as verified by their last tax return. And we go off the adjusted gross income, so it wouldn't necessarily be the funding that's on the W-2, but it could be from their taxes. It's not household income, it's individual income. So if they're in a relationship and somebody earns $50,000 and the other person earns $30,000, we would go, as long as the person that earns $30,000 is interested in the training, we definitely could qualify them for the training. Incentives are available for participants, again, at $500 every month. But what's different with this program is if they have, if they have an employer that is willing to hire them at the end of the training period and can get a letter from that employer, the employer can also receive a $500 bonus upon the hiring of the individual at the end of the training. This program does also offer supportive services available to assist the participant. So it's very helpful in supporting people if they need tools, if they need clothing, if they need certain help with licensure. For instance, if they're a CDL, maybe they need help to pay for taking the exam. This program can help pay for that. I just want to mention, and I know Anne Marie mentioned this a little bit, there are other training programs that still exist in addition to the ARPA training. And Anne Marie did talk about the incumbent worker training, which is really important. I don't want folks to forget about that because it's there to help employers that have current employees. They have to have 50 people or less in their business, but helps them access training that is required by the employer. So it's really a great opportunity that I think we forget about sometimes. But we both thought it bared mentioning. One of the things that I want to also emphasize is that there are a lot of things available out there, and you might not necessarily know what is going to be best for you or what circumstances are best for you. Give us a call. Contact us at Job Service. Give me a call. It's our job to find what's going to work for you. If you do think that there are some sorts of training that you need to start to enhance your business, let us know. If it's not available, we'll put you in touch with people that can help develop that training. So there is a lot of things that can happen with this ARPA money. We need to think outside of the box a little bit. For instance, one of the ideas I had is if you have a business that has a warehouse, but you also employ CDL people. It's easier to find people that work in the warehouse than folks that have their CDL license. So maybe you can use this training money, or they can use the training money to get their CDL license and move up and hire more entry-level warehouse people. You know, think about anything that's going to help you as a business stay in business and expand so that you can be competitive in today's industry. I've got my contact information there. Please feel free to give me a call. Again, if I don't know the answer, I'll find out who does for you. So.
Thank you, Kellyanne. We always appreciate your willingness to think outside the box and your commitment to helping our businesses in Missoula and throughout the region. We will ask Kellyanne to come back on when we get to the question and answer period. Next up to present just a real outline and touch on a few other resources that we're aware of available through ARPA. I'm going to ask Nicole Rush, who is our Business Initiatives Director here at MEP, to join us. Nicole is both in charge of our grants program and runs our talent development program. So she's a real expert in this area and is another great resource for all of you on the call or on the webinar. If you have additional questions, you can reach out to Nicole as well as Kellyanne or Anne Marie. Nicole.
Thanks, Grant. I just wanted to direct everyone to the main website that you would go to find out any and all information about ARPA programs, which is arpa.mt.gov. The programs that Kellyanne and Anne Marie just went through are listed there, as well as other programs that are available through like the Department of Health and Human Services, and other divisions of the state that are all providing ARPA funding. So let's see. So just a little list of what some of those programs are. There's currently a grant program, a few different grant programs available through the Department of Public Health and Human Services for childcare focused business providers. There is a construction business apprenticeship training program available, as well as a program that assists with recruiting healthcare workers. And I think it is specifically a relocation grant program. So if you are attracting in a healthcare worker from outside the state, it can assist with some of their relocation costs. Through the Montana Board of Investments, there is a down payment loan program available for capital business expenditures, so equipment purchases, large purchases like that. It's a new loan program, and you also have to partner with a registered lender as well. So you work with your bank and the Board of Investments to apply for that program. There are housing and rental assistance programs available that can help your employees if they're facing housing costs. So it's not really available through you as the employer, but it's sort of a good program to be aware of. And I know they're trying to get the word out more about that rental assistance program. And then finally, this is still in the process of being rolled out, but The Montana University system and our local Accelerate Montana office at the University of Montana is in the process of rolling out a customized short-term training program. So if you already work with the university or are interested in working with the university to set up a program to train your employees, you would want to reach out to Paul Gladen and Mike Braun at Accelerate Montana. That's an exciting program that we're keeping an eye on, but they're still, I think, just now rolling it out. So I'm going to leave this slide up through the remainder of the webinar. This is contact info for both Kellyanne and Anne-Marie. You're also welcome to reach out to any of us on the team at Missoula Economic Partnership. As Kellyanne mentioned, if we don't know the answer to your question, we can find out who does. And I think kind of the main thing to remember about all of the programs that we just went through is that if you are facing any kind of training costs for employees, there are a wide variety of programs available to assist you. And with that, I will turn it over to Julie, who is going to facilitate our Q&A.
Thanks, Nicole. So we've had a number of questions come in the chat, and I will go through them, and Kellyanne, Anne-Marie, Nicole chime in with answers, and you're welcome to continue to add questions to the Q&A. So the first question, and I see this in two areas, is the definition of training. So maybe we could dig in more on what would be a specific program? What would that look like? Can you give some concrete examples on what is defined as training?
You know, that is a really good question. It would be it would be leading any sort of instruction that is going to lead to a certificate or a license. With most of the ARPA funds, and Anne-Marie, at least the ones that I deal with, they're not talking about a degree. So it wouldn't be an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. That's not what they're talking about, because that's not short-term. That's going to get people employed immediately. So I think the best examples that I gave is like CDL. They go to this training, they're going to get a CDL license. It's going to be able to be put immediately to use. A CNA, certified nursing assistant. All of those that are going to lead to immediate employment.
Okay.
For our program, it is a slight different focus. So we're looking at skill-based training. And I know that there was a question about, can that be on the job training, where a senior employer is training a different employee, and as long as it's skill-based. So an example could be there's a purchase of a new piece of equipment that the new employee needs to be trained on, or perhaps you do an in-house welding certification type program. Not all of our training needs to lead to certifications, but you will score higher if they are associated with certification. So we're really looking very broad base. I know one of the questions about attending conference, if we really wanting to see those skill-based training. So if it's a conference that doesn't provide any skill-based training, then it would not be eligible. But if it does, that may be considered.
Okay, so it sounds like, and this was a follow-up to the original asking for a definition of training, is that there is some leniency for in-house training. Is that correct, Anne-Marie? But Kellyanne, your program is more designed at certification and specifically.
That would be correct. And so, and again, if somebody's doing an apprenticeship program and it's they're doing their OJT, that OJT training could be eligible. So again, we're emphasizing skill-based. So just general policies or onboarding would not be eligible, but ones that would lead to an increase in their skill.
Okay, great. And that there was a question from a sole proprietor applying for training funds to shift operations within their organization. So training for website administration, how to conduct, so adding skills to your existing services. Sounds like that could be a possibility as well, correct?
So the question for our program is the person that is needing that training a true employee? If they're not a true employee, then you could always look at the IWT program, the Incumbent Worker Training Program. But if they are an employee and you're needing to, and that is a skill-based, then yes, there's a possibility. But again, they would need to meet the definition of an employee.
Can you clarify that definition? Because I am getting a specific question about, would these apply for sole proprietors? Or is it only businesses with employees?
Is only, we are providing training for employees. So
Okay.
if it's just themselves, because a sole proprietor may have employees, and that's how they're organized, and that's fine if they are actually employees, meaning they are W-2 a wage earner and they are listed on their unemployment insurance form, then a sole proprietor can come in and apply. But if he is the owner of the business and he is not considered an employee, even if he takes owner's draws, because that does not constitute a W-2 wage or is reported on the UI-5, then a sole proprietor could not apply. But they are eligible to apply to the Incumbent Worker Training Program.
Great. Kellyanne, do you have anything to add on that sole proprietor question?
Well, just one thing. Everybody would still have to meet the minimum requirements in order to be eligible for my programs. So it would be 200% of poverty for one, wage less than 32.2 adjusted gross income. And I think that every situation can be unique. And I think we haven't written the rules for every situation for these ARPA programs. So I would just encourage anybody to let somebody know, let Anne-Marie know, let me know, let us know. And if we don't know the answer, again, we can ask the questions of somebody that will give us further guidance and direction if we can apply, how we apply some of these rules.
Great. I have a question related to healthcare practitioners. So the question is, I have several employees, they are licensed healthcare practitioners. These healthcare practitioners require continuing education hours every 2 years. Because our license requires this education or training, does this exclude us from the program? Now let both or either of you respond.
For the ARPA WTG, that would be an eligible training.
I believe they would have to show how it was going to, for us, improve their skill set and give them a different skill set. So I don't believe continuing education would work for the programs that I talked about. But again, that's a gray area that I would have to do some further research at.
Great. Thank you. This is probably directed to Anne-Marie. Participant is asking if they currently have a workforce training grant through the Department of Commerce and have completed the contracted training, but have been unable to meet the net new job requirement. Can we transfer to a Commerce or Department of Labor and Industry grant that does not require net new job growth? Did you follow that?
Yes, I did. So if they have a current open contract, obviously they would need to, we'd like to see that one closed out, especially if they don't, or they're unable to make the net new. I know a net new was a question earlier, and so if I can just answer that right now, a net new would be a position. So if we start with 10 employees, net new would be when they get to 11, that shows a net growth. And so if the example that you gave, if the business is no longer growing for various reasons, then yes, they would want to contact the Department of Commerce and close out their existing grant that they have open. And then they could come in and apply to train their existing employees.
Great. Okay, there's a question too about what constitutes a new employee. So someone is asking, we recently added 2 new people in January and February. Will these employees be considered new? They're still within the standard probationary period, or is new those not yet hired?
Great question. So what we would, I'll take that because it directs on us. So whenever the Department of Commerce staff has approved the project, that'll be our start date. And so we would look at how many employees you have at that time. And then we would look at the growth beyond that from that day forth. So if the employees, regardless if they're in probation, we don't really, unless they're no longer, if during probation they're not your employees, but an employee of a temp agency would be the only exception. But yeah, we would start on the date that Commerce staff has approved the project.
Okay, Kellyanne, anything to add for specifics of your programs?
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't matter to us as long as they met the qualifying, the eligibility requirements. So
great. And this is a kind of an additional clarification. These programs are not available to contract employees or employees working less than 35 hours a week. Correct?
For the WTG ARPA, that would be correct. But if they have those part-time employees, working less than 35 hours, I would encourage them to look at the IWT program, then come at worker training program, because they would be eligible. They could potentially be eligible in that program.
and for, since we look primarily the programs I'm working with are concentrated on the employee, doesn't necessarily have to be an employee, can be a participant. So it very well could be that if they are interested on their own for further training that's going to be in a targeted industry that they need more skills for, yeah, if they meet the criteria, we're certainly going to look at putting them in what they want to go in.
Great, and maybe you can just add on to that, because that targeted industry definition, I'm seeing a question here related to a privately owned restaurant and service industry jobs. Can you clarify what is considered a, I believe you said high demand service or occupation?
Again, for our definition, that's a pretty broad term. And again, I would dare say that most jobs in our area are in high demand because every business is scrambling to find employees. So, but the purpose of this is to give folks a skill that is going to help them get a better job, that's going to help them become self-sufficient, as well as help the employers who aren't able to find folks in that industry. So I think everything is pretty open for our programs. Great.
And Anne-Marie, I wanted to add a follow-up question. You talked about the wage requirements for your program and can you just clarify that again?
Oh, absolutely. We are looking at, it is 170% of Montana's minimum wage. So as minimum wage goes up, because we anticipate the program to be a 4-year time period. So people that applied in December, the minimum wage was at a different level, and now minimum wage went up. So we take 170 times the minimum wage, which is how we came up with $15.64 an hour. And then on January 1st, when minimum wage goes up again in 2023, then we will have a new rate.
Great. Okay, just to clarify a question that's in the chat around funding for conferences, it sounds like it would be open to to being funded, but again, subject to approval. And in Anne Marie's program and in Kellyanne, it's more focused on skills-based training. So, and then I'm seeing a note in the chat from Accelerate Montana that they are actively developing workforce training programs to meet immediate and long-term employer needs, and that link to Accelerate is in the chat. So I'm not seeing, oh, I'm here. Here we go. One other question. Could you comment on the total pools of funding available for these programs and by when they must be expended?
For us, for the different programs we had, from January 1st to June 30th, we have 111,000 to spend on one of the programs. On the other programs, we have 124,000 to spend. After the ARPA funding, from what we have been told, will be good through June of 2023. So we expect to get another round of funding July 1st, that'll be good for a year. So it really is quick turnaround. I mean, that's not a lot of time to spend the money. So one other thing I want to say just real briefly that I forgot to mention is that we are in the process of actively getting this information out to as many potential participants as we can. We understand that the employers are desperate and that there are a lot of folks out there that a lot of employers out there that really need trained people to start yesterday. So we are doing everything we can we're in the high schools, we are posting in the public facilities, we are doing everything we can to try and get folks into us that can be trained for the jobs that you have. So if you have a particular job that you're having problems with, that short-term training would work, if you could let us know so we can start coaching some of the folks that come into our office and try and steer them in your direction, that would be hopefully helpful.
Great. That's really helpful, Kellyanne. The moral of the story is reach out if you have any employment issues or need any help. So I know your office is great at really just accommodating the needs of our local employers and workers. So appreciate that. I'm not seeing any, another comment?
Yeah, for the ARPA WTG, we actually went to the commission that was set up with the implementation of the, I think it's House Bill 30, I might have the wrong House Bill, sorry, and was awarded or was allocated $17 million. So the size of our program is 17 million. And it's a first come, first serve basis, and we have up to the 4 years to expend all the funds.
Great. 17 million, 4 years. Great. Not seeing any other questions. We have a few more minutes. You're welcome to add questions there still to answer. Nicole, do you have anything to add as a question or comment?
Julie, if it's okay, I have a question I'd like to ask of both Kellyanne and Anne Marie. One of the things that we noticed, excuse me, early on when relief programs started coming online, something like PPP, obviously there's a lot of effort that goes into the front end to try to develop these programs right out of the gates to really best fit our companies. But we learned through PPP that not every nuance and component of the program was a really good fit to meet the needs of companies. And there was some adaptation on the part of the federal government to these programs. Do either of you have a sense, is there a process or mechanism by which that we can advocate with businesses to the state if it feels like some small tweaks could be done to make some of these programs more beneficial to more companies, or is that pretty set in stone at this stage?
I'll take at least on the WTG ARPA, as I kind of started at the beginning when we provided our list of potential businesses that could apply to the program. We just simply overlooked the word co-op. And so the we have a process in place that we can use to look at our guidelines to see if changes can be made. And so there's an ARPA working group that would review it, and then if they approve it, then it would go back to the commission for their blessing on any modification. So that is one modification that we're considering taking to the committee.
That's great. Thank you.
I don't have any inside information on that, but my sense is that this is a pretty fluid program that that the commission is really just looking at trying to serve as many employers as possible and try and get this money to help folks, to help the employers and to help the participants get better paying jobs. So I think, and I'm almost certain of this, that they are going to listen to any feedback, any changes, any tweaks that could be suggested.
That's great. Thank you. So with that, Julie, if you're not seeing additional questions, I'll just remind folks that first, we are recording this today, and so we will put the recording of this up on our website as soon as we have a chance to download and edit anything that we need to. I want to just thank Kellyanne and Anne Marie. Really appreciate you taking the time to be here today. And I want to just stress to everybody who participated, thanks for coming. I know this took a lot of time out of an already busy schedule for you when you're probably stretched thin. It has been our experience at MEP that those companies that take the time to get to know these programs and that qualify for them and that utilize them as resources see a lot of benefits from participating in these programs. And really they can help you accelerate growth and get through some challenging times. So I hope that this was at least a primer to give you some ideas about where you can start. Feel free to reach out to us at MEP if that's helpful. And really appreciate everybody participating today, and let us know if this was useful and we can continue to do things of this type in the months ahead. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.